So now let's talk about the fill pattern tool. Now using fill pattern, you can fill a shape or a feature along a plane. So in this case, I have this whole feature and I just want to fill it along this plane. So for that, I'll go to this pattern tool here. I'll just expand this one and select fill pattern. Alright, so the first thing that you need to select here is the plane or the face where you want to fill this pattern. In this case, I just want to fill it here. So I'll select this face and here it is. It is now selected completely. Now, the next thing that you need to select is the feature which you want to pattern. And that option is right here. So you can select either a feature or a face. So in this case, we just want to select a feature. So I'll select this box and I'm just going to click inside this, or you can also go to this feature tree and select the feature. So in this case, I'm selecting cut extrude 1. And there we are. As soon as you select it, it's going to create this kind of pattern. Now this very much looks like a linear pattern in this case, but it is different. Now, the first thing is the way these patterns are created. As you can see, this is the seed pattern, the main pattern, and this pattern is not right underneath this one. Actually, it is in between these two instances. So that's the layout of this pattern. Actually, you can change this layout as well. And that layout is here. So this is the first pattern layout which I've selected. I can just select the second one and that's going to give us a circular kind of pattern. So this will become the main central pattern and all the other patterns will kind of revolve around that pattern. Then we have this one, which is exactly like the linear pattern. And then the last one, once again, this is kind of like circular, but in this case, it's just making a polygon and you can specify a number of polygon sides. It may look like circle when you use several sides of this polygon, but for a smaller polygon, like maybe of 5 sides or 6 sides, this will kind of create a polygonal type of pattern with this pattern at its center. Alright, so in this case, I'll start with this first option. We just want this kind of pattern. And here you can select the gap or the instance spacing, which is set to 17 right now approximately. Well, let's make it exactly 17. So I'll type 17 and press the tab key. Alright, so that's done. Now what is happening in this case? Well, with this 17 units selected, now the pattern gap is 17 along both the directions. So from one point of this pattern to the same point on the second pattern in this direction as well as in this direction, the distance is 17. Alright, then we have the angle which is set to 60 degrees. We can make it 0. So I'll just make it 0 so that we have this kind of clean pattern. And then we have the margin of this pattern. So if you want to leave some margin from the ends of this face, then you can just add it here. For example, a margin of 2 unit. Now it will leave some sort of margin here before just creating this entire pattern. So I'll just make it 0. We don't want any kind of margin here. And then we have the direction. So edge 1 is the default direction and SolidWorks kind of selected direction automatically here. You can see that that's the direction which is selected. Now you can also choose a direction. So for example, you can just click here and now that's the selected direction. You can also reverse it. Now reversing has almost no effect in this case because of the type of pattern which we are making. Now right now we are getting 36 instances, but you can validate this count because it has already changed. We have made some changes. So if you want to just validate, just click here and it's going to count it again. And as you can see, it's still 36. All right. So, well, that's the option. That's the set of options that we have for this. But fill pattern is not just that. You can also use other options here. But before we get to that, let's first click OK to just create our first pattern. And here we are. This is the kind of pattern which we are going to get. All right, now let's go to this fill pattern again. Let's modify this. And now let's select maybe this circular pattern. There we are. And here the row gap is 17, which is the gap between this and all the other rows. And then we have the gap of instances, which is again 17.46, kind of big. Let's decrease this number. Let's make it 12 so that they are kind of close, or maybe 6. All right, now they are really very close and you can see what's happening. So here we are. So it's just creating this kind of circular pattern. Now here, of course, we have several overlapping patterns. So we will end up kind of overlapped cuts. So in order to kind of avoid this situation, you can skip some of the instances. So go to this instances to skip option here and then select these pink dots. So I'll just select this one and maybe this one too. So I've got this, and here also I'll just select a few of these pink dots. So there we are, and maybe one from here. and the same thing from here. All right, just a few of these, and that's all. And maybe here, this last one. And now with this kind of pattern, once you are satisfied, just click OK, and here we are. So this is the pattern which we got. Now I'll press Ctrl Z again to get back to the main drawing, which is this one. And now let's see what will happen if our main pattern is exactly at the center. So this cut extrude 1 is not exactly at the center, as you can see. Now I'll just move this slider down so that this cut extrude 2 feature is also visible, which is exactly at the center. And we also want to hide this cut extrude 1. So to hide this, I'll first move this one right above this. So I'll just move it right above this. So cut extrude 2 is at the top and this one is at the bottom. And now I'll move this bar above this cut extrude 1. Now cut extrude 1 is now hidden and we can only see cut extrude 2. All right, let's try this pattern again. So I'll now go to this fill pattern, the same set of options. So we have got the face, and now in this case I'll just select this circular pattern. All right, now you can specify the gap, but before we do that, let's select our main pattern. So I'll just go to this one, and here this is the one which we need to select. So I'll just expand it and select cut extrude 2, and here we are, we've got this. Now here also you can change the gap of rows. So right now the gap between these two rows and these two, it's 17 approximately. Maybe we can just decrease this to 14, I guess. So yeah, 14. And also the gap between all of these objects, it's also kind of big, so we can decrease that gap as well. So I'll just make it 10. All right, and there we are. That's how the pattern is going to be created. All right, so with that, we can maybe click on validate count. 71 patterns are created. Click OK, and this is the kind of pattern which you'll get. So depending on the actual location of your main pattern, this pattern, the final fill pattern, will kind of change. Now you actually don't need these references for creating the pattern. So I'll just once again press Ctrl Z to get back to this original drawing, and now I'll move this slider all the way above this cut extrude 2 as well, so that we just have this kind of plate here and nothing else in this. Now once again I'll go to fill pattern. So I'll go to fill pattern, and this time I will start with the face. But now as you can see, we don't have any feature to select from this tree, so these two are definitely not here. So in this case, you can select this option, create seed cut in the features and faces. Now this will let you select some ready-made features. So I'll just select this one, and now we have all of these features available for us. So you can create circular cut, you can create square, you can also create the diamond cut or a polygonal type cut. So it just depends on you which kind of cut you want to make. So also, if you select any of these seeds, you still have the option of selecting the pattern type from here. So in this case, we are getting the circular pattern. You can change it to this. Well, the first one, and the perforation one, and then we have the circular, and then this usual linear pattern, and so on. So you can choose the type of pattern. Maybe we'll select the perforation pattern. There we are, and we can decrease the gap here, so it's kind of huge. So I'll just make it maybe 14. All right, so there we are, it's 14 now, and with that you can just click OK, and that's the pattern. Now you can also, I'll right click and go to edit this, and here you can also just change the shape. For example, let's select polygon, and here you can select the properties of this polygon. So basically you can change number of sides here. Maybe let's make a pentagon here, and then you have the radius of this pentagon, which is the circumscribed radius, or you can change the inscribed circle radius here if you want to. So you can choose any of these values. So here I have the circumscribed radius of 1, so I'll leave that one selected here. You can change the centroid location of that, and with these selections you can just click OK, and you'll get this kind of pattern. Also, you can change again its pattern type. So whatever the type of pattern you want, you can just choose it from here. And if you want to flip the direction of this pattern, you can just check this box, and that's going to kind of flip the direction. So with that, I will maybe decrease this gap. So I'll just make it maybe 14, and then here this gap also I'll just make it again 10. All right, this is the kind of pattern which we are going to get, and with that just click OK, and here it is, the fill pattern. So that's how you can use fill pattern tool to create patterns along faces.